What's up, Bernsey? Uh, had people concerned about you last night after I reported on the attacks in Germany over the last 96 hours. So hope everybody's doing well this morning. This is kind of a serious subject early, but I'm already late to the punch on it. I know Aaron broke this early yesterday, I think. So other people have reported on it as well, but I'm just gonna go with it and see where it leads us. Oh, I gotta bring it back. Let me know if y'all can hear it. What's up, Nick Beard Records?
Good, how are you, my man?
Pretty good. Are you a nurse, a doctor?
I'm a doctor, my man.
A doctor for what?
In hospital. What about you? Where are you from?
I'm from Israel, from the Holy Land.
You know what? I'm gonna be really honest with you.
All right.
I'm gonna be really honest with you. You actually got a really, really beautiful eyes.
Thank you, man.
I'm so upset that you're Israeli. Like, eventually you're gonna get killed and you're gonna go to Jahannam, inshallah. Like these pretty eyes, they should stay in this world for longer.
Why do you think? Why do you think I'm gonna get killed?
It's Palestine's country, not your country. You piece.
What's your name?
One day,
your
time will come and you will die the most. Listen to me.
Peace.
Listen to me.
And
when your time comes.
How are you, doctors? Wait.
I want you to remember my face.
Okay.
So you can understand
Gotcha.
That you will
I have a question though.
Death.
All right, for sure. I have a question though. I have a question. Let's say an Israeli. God forbid.
I won't treat them. I'll kill them.
You'll kill them? So if an Israeli is in Australia and God forbid something happened to him and he comes to your hospital, would you kill him?
You have no idea how many Israeli Khara dog came to this hospital and
what you just saw.
Did y'all get that? The doctor said, how many, what's up top? Israeli dogs came into this hospital and he killed them. This is Australia. Toker actually keyed me in on this. This is Aaron Cohen. He's an American Jew. He served in Shayatet 13, which is equivalent to our SEAL Team 6. He throws some good analysis out there. Don't necessarily agree with him on everything, but that's just the way it is. Otherwise, a good, tough guy.
Wasn't some underground terrorist recruitment video. This was recorded inside an Australian hospital. Two healthcare professionals, Ahmed Rashad Nadir and Sarah Abu Lebde, casually discussing the idea of murdering Israeli patients in a hospital setting. And it wasn't just talk. After this video went viral, police raided Nadir's hospital locker. And guess what they found?
Hey, Top.
A vial of morphine.
Detectives allegedly found drugs in Ahmad Nadir's personal locker at Bankstown Hospital. Nadir allegedly asked a former colleague to empty his locker, but that staff member felt uncomfortable and called police. Officers seized one vial of morphine, and it will now be part of the investigation into this shocking hate video in which Nadir allegedly admits to killing Israeli patients.
Now, anyone who understands medicine knows that morphine in the wrong dose is highly lethal. So I have a question for the Australian government. What was a radicalized nurse who openly said he wanted to kill Jewish patients doing with unauthorized access to a controlled substance?
Very clear to me that these people have committed what are crimes, and they should face the full force of the law.
Those people subject to that investigation will not ever be working for New South Wales Health again. They are.
I want to be clear. These were radicalized jihadists. I don't remember if they say that if they were citizens or if they were asylum seekers, immigrants, or what. They sounded at least second generation Australian. But these are the ideas that are hoisted upon on the world, as we saw yesterday in the attacks in Germany.
Vile, disgusting, and deranged individuals.
This footage you just saw right here, I'm wondering why none of this actually happened before the video went viral. Let's be honest. This isn't leadership here. This is called damage control. And it only proves one thing. The Australian government has been allowing this threat to grow and metastasize like a disease unchecked. So let's start with what exactly happened. Ahmed Rashad Nadir and Sarah Abu Lebde were registered nurses at Bankstown Hospital in Sydney. Yusra Ahmed, the third person in this video, laughed along and encouraged them. You couldn't see her in the footage. She was off camera. And they openly admitted that they would refuse medical care to Israelis, to Jews, and even kill them instead. And I want to be very clear here. These weren't random people on the street. These are trusted medical professionals. And the only reason why they were exposed, they filmed themselves. Now let's talk about what police found when they searched Nadir's hospital locker. Morphine. And guess what? This wasn't assigned to him. It wasn't supposed to be there, and yet there it was. So my question, was he stealing it, selling it, or was he planning on using it on someone? And that's the question no one in the Australian government seems to be asking. So now let's take a closer look at the man at the center of this terror scandal, Ahmed Nadir. Who is he? And how did he go from being a registered nurse in Australia to openly advocating for the murder of Jewish patients? Here's what we know so far. Nadir was born in Afghanistan and fled to Australia as a refugee. He was granted asylum under Australia's weak humanitarian program. And 4 years ago, he became an Australian citizen. He worked as a nurse at Bankstown Hospital in Sydney, one of the largest medical centers serving a very diverse population. And I want to stop right there. Australia took this guy in. They gave him a home. They gave him a job. And they granted and gifted him citizenship. And this is how he repays it? By plotting to kill innocent people in a hospital? This isn't ingratitude. This is a radicalized man right here.
Yeah.
And it forces me to ask some very uncomfortable questions, but welcome to my world. How many other refugees, particularly from the Islamist-controlled regions, are coming to Australia? Not to escape extremism, but to bring that ideology with them. Because one thing here is very clear. He didn't wake up one morning and decide that he hated Jews. Someone taught him this ideology. Man, I'd love to speak to his parents. So the real question I have is, who radicalized him? And how many others are out there in Australia that have been imported that are exactly like him? Now I want to talk about the Australian government's weak reactionary response and dance around some of their failed immigration. So what does the Australian government do? Let's hit this. They fired the nurses. They called the video disturbing, and they promised an internal review. But guess what? That's not enough for me. And let me tell you what they didn't do.
No, by no means.
They haven't launched a full-scale investigation into other radicalized hospital workers, because you'd be insane to think that these were the only two. They didn't announce any new security measures to screen for extremist ideology throughout their national health care. They didn't take any action to dismantle the radical Islamist networks that have been building in Australia for the last 2 decades. And most importantly, they didn't ask the most obvious question, in my opinion. Why does Australia have an Islamist problem in the first place? And the truth is this: Australia has a radical Islamist problem, and they know it. They don't want to admit it because that would mean taking a very difficult look at their own immigration policies. So we're going to do it right here for them on the Aaron Cohen Show. Over the past 20 years, Australia has accepted tens of thousands of refugees from Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, Somalia, and regions known for producing the most hardcore Islamic radicals. Many were fast-tracked into citizenship under Australia's humanitarian visa program, which means no serious vetting, if any at all, process to determine if they held or hold extremist views before arriving on Australian soil. And instead of integrating into Australian society, large Islamist enclaves have formed in cities like Sydney and Melbourne, where radical preachers, extremist mosques, and pro-Hamas sentiments are allowed to go unchecked and flourish. And what's worse, the government funds it. Yes, Aussies, your taxpayer dollars go to cultural organizations that act as breeding grounds for jihadist ideology. They let radical extremists into their country. They refuse to police those communities. They won't even go in there. And now those extremists are infiltrating hospitals, schools, and guess what? They've infiltrated some of the law enforcement as well. And instead of fixing it, guess what they're doing? This is what radicals do. They're just going to cover it up. And you want to know why the Australian government isn't cracking down on the problem? Because they're terrified of being called racist. Because they know that if they actually have to clean house and investigate Islamist extremism in public institutions, they're going to get called, they're going to get accused of Islamophobia, racial profiling, and targeting Muslim communities unfairly. Welcome to this left radical globalist garbage. So instead of protecting the amazing people in Australia, and I love the Aussies, they bend over backwards to appease radicalized groups who scream discrimination anytime someone tries to hold them accountable. Let me ask you something.
Identifying the networks and keeping the radicalism out of any group, from the left to the right, from Baptist to the most hardcore Islamist. There's ways to vet it without becoming a Fed trap, without it becoming a violation of First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, things like that. But we can't lump all in with the bad. That's like saying my dad is the same as Todd. So we're not we can't lump vetting is necessary the way we allowed Afghanistan to fall was a travesty, and it allowed for a lot of things because of all the emergency visas that were given out. And it's not just Australia, y'all. We did it too. So I mean, Burns, we have some cities like that. We have some cities, full counties like that here in Georgia.
If a white nationalist doctor was caught saying he wouldn't treat Muslim patients, how long do you think it would take before he was arrested? If an Australian-born police officer was found to have links to a white supremacist group, would they just fire him and call it a day? No. He'd be prosecuted to the full extent of Aussie's laws. He'd be dragged through the courts. Government would use him as an example of far-right extremism. Why is radical Islam treated differently? And you want to know why they're not doing anything? Because they don't have to. Australian politicians have zero incentive to fix this problem because there's no political cost for that inaction. The media covers for them. Academia downplays the problem. The Islamic groups have learned how to manipulate the system. And they know that if they keep pushing their radical agenda while playing victim, the government isn't going to do anything out of fear of looking politically incorrect. It's the same playbook as Hamas. So ask yourself this. How many more radicalized nurses, teachers, police officers, and government workers are actually within the Australian system? How much longer will Australians allow this to go on before they demand action? Because if Australians don't wake up now, they're going to wake up one day pretty soon.
Trump, I haven't set it up yet. You can hit the PayPal up there. It all goes to Hill Pirate. Yeah, Jeff. He's the Shiite 13 guy. Really Shiite, but we laughed about it being shit 13.
Soon in a country which I'm sure they're already starting to not recognize. A country where radical Islam controls not just little pockets of neighborhoods, but entire neighborhoods. A country where law enforcement isn't just afraid to act in certain little sections, but entire cities. A country where hospitals aren't safe for Jews and Christians and anybody who opposes their radical jihadist ideology. When that day comes, I promise you this, it's going to be too late to stop it. This is a war for the future of Australia. The question is, are the Australian people ready to take back their country? So, Aaron, what can Australia do? Australia opened the gates to radical Islam, and now it's time to shut them down and take back control. Now, I'm talking about a nationwide counterterrorism strategy that must be enacted immediately. One, you have to recognize the root of the problem: Islam's deep-rooted anti-Semitism. This episode of the Aaron Cohen Show is brought to you by Merkava Coffee. This is the official coffee of the Aaron Cohen Show. When I served in the IDF, coffee wasn't just coffee. It was fuel. And in the special operations world, there were nights with no sleep, missions that stretched for days, and no room for mistakes. Coffee was serious, and it kept us sharp, locked in, and ready to move. And let me tell you something, I still take it seriously. And that's why Merkava Coffee, strong, no nonsense, battle tested, no fluff, no gimmicks, just good, bold coffee for the people who need to be at their best. And if you start your day like I do, like it's a mission, you know why this matters. Hit the link down in the description and grab yourself a triple order and help keep the lights on and support the Aaron Cohen Show. Appreciate you guys.
I'm letting him play his advertisements because that's how he makes his money. So I do like Aaron.
Which Al Jazeera has been pumping out for 16 months to 100 million Arabs. And before we even discuss solutions, first you have to acknowledge the hard truth. Radical Islam isn't some fringe ideology. It's embedded in the core of the teachings of mainstream Islam in most Muslim countries. And the Quran and the Hadith are filled with deeply anti-Semitic passages. The Quran 560 refers to Jews as the descendants of apes and pigs. Quran 98:6 calls non-Muslims, including Jews, the worst of creatures. Sahih Muslim Hadith states that on the day of judgment will not come until Muslims fight the Jews and kill them. This isn't just ISIS propaganda. This is taught inside mosques around the world, including Australia. You've got to understand the text. So why does Australia allow open anti-Semitic religious institutions to thrive under the protection of multiculturalism? It's just Australia. It's Europe and Canada. You can't defeat radical Islam without addressing its roots. And until Australia and all of these other countries in the West stops pretending.
Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq. Yes, GJM. And I'm sorry, but you're the worst person in the world, so I'm going to have to block you, Todd says. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that.
This is just about a few bad apples. Nothing's going to change. But now I want to say this. Radical Islam isn't just operating in the shadows. It's inside Australia's institutions, all of the West Institute, Canada, Europe, the UK. And you've got to start thinking about how to dismantle it. One, you've got to shut down these radical mosques. If a mosque is preaching jihad, anti-Semitism, or Sharia supremacy, it gets shut down immediately. Khalas. Imams who preach extremism, prosecuted and deported. Bye-bye. Two, you got to ban the Islamist organizations.
I mean, do y'all think that I put the Valentine's picture in Discord of Western leftists sitting down with Hamas over a Valentine's dinner for any reason? But see, the Western left and the extreme right have met in the horseshoe that me and Jeff always talk about, right? They're almost touching. They have the same ideas, but they go in a little bit different ways about it. Arab, and a cartel member. I mean, I've got friends from Arabic countries that are, cool with me. They don't want to chop my head off. Maybe they know somebody that did. I don't know.
Groups like Hizb ut-Tahrir, the Muslim Brotherhood, the pro-Hamas networks need to be labeled as terrorist organizations and banned nationwide in Australia. Their members arrested. Their assets seized. 3, it's time to launch nationwide counterterrorism raids. That's how you get that rolling intelligence to determine.
No, don't put words in my mouth. I said I have friends from Arabic countries.
Determine where these bad apples are. Islamic centers, cultural organizations, religious schools that promote jihad must be raided by law enforcement. Bank records must be seized to track the foreign funding from Qatar, Iran, Turkey. It's all going to go back to them. Follow the money. Trust me. Undercover informants. 5, radical mosques must be infiltrated with.
Remember, glowy.
Informants who can gather intelligence on Islamist cells operating in Australia. Who's perpetuating all this? This isn't Islamophobia, people. This is national security, my Australians. Next, you've got to kick out the radicals, every single one of them. And here's what must happen immediately. You've got to deport the foreign-born imams and Islamist leaders. Any imam or Islamic scholar who preaches extremism loses their visa and is deported immediately. And if they're citizens, prosecute. Incitement for terrorism. Strip the citizenship where applicable. Gone. Khalas. Goodbye. Next, you got to revoke the citizenship for the Islamist radicals. If you support Hamas, Hezbollah, or Sharia law over Australian law, you don't belong in Australia. You're gone. And any naturalized citizen caught supporting terrorism has their citizenship stripped, revoked, and you deported. Next, you've got to deport the entire radicalized families. If someone's caught plotting a terror attack, their entire family should be investigated and, where applicable, deported, gone. Next, you got to ban the reentry for the deported Islamists. No more deporting radicals just for them to sneak back into on a different passport. Blacklist them permanently from ever setting foot in Australia again. Radical Islam is a cancer. And the only way to stop cancer is to cut it out completely. Australia let radical Islam in. Now it's time to lock the doors before more come flooding in. And it's time to ban immigration from Islamist countries. No more refugees from Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, Somalia, and other Islamist strongholds. You need extreme vetting for all Muslim applicants. Every single applicant from a high risk.
Now, to be fair, there needs to be extreme vetting for anybody coming in.
For his country must be screened for Islamist ties. If you don't know how to do it, get offices set up in those countries or on those borders and start mastering how to spot it. If you ever express support for Hamas, Hezbollah, radical Islam, you're denied entry. And there's no more automatic asylum for Muslims fleeing persecution. We've seen this lie over and over again. Radicals claiming to be refugees while spreading jihad. Go look at Europe. Europe has fallen. And asylum should be reserved for persecuted Christians, Yazidis, other minorities, not people who want to see the West burn down while taking advantage of our freedoms. And if Australia doesn't fix this immigration problem now, it will eventually be overrun by radical Islamists within a generation, I promise you. The next piece I want to hit here is the law enforcement and intel angle.
I don't know. I know a few that would take a bullet for me. A few that have tried. Radical monogamy. I mean, that's why con men have jobs, right?
Australia's police and intelligence agencies have to start going on the offensive against radical Islam. And here's what they need to do. Law enforcement needs to be empowered to arrest Islamists under domestic terrorism laws. And if you chant gas the Jews at a protest, you get arrested for incitement to genocide. If you wave a Hamas flag, you get charged with supporting a terrorist organization. Then there needs to be the creation of hard-hitting counterterrorism task force in every major Muslim city. Muslim communities with known radical elements need to be monitored. Surveillance operations have to track these radical preachers and these quiet humming terror cells and all that online recruitment. Also, you need to revoke the welfare and the housing benefits for these extremists. If you engage in radical activity, you lose every government benefit. There's no more taxpayer-funded jihadists living off the Australian system. It's ridiculous. Aaron, that's racist. No. This isn't about discrimination. This is about protecting Australia from the enemy within that's already infiltrated. And I want to be very clear here. We'll talk about some of the foreign funding with these groups. Radical Islam is funded from abroad. You've got to cut off that money. You have to ban all foreign funding of mosques. No more Saudi, Qatari, Iranian money funding these radical preachers. You've got to seize the assets from those terror-linked organizations. What I mean by that is any mosque or cultural center or NGO, non-government organization that's tied to an Islamic terror group has to have those assets frozen. You've got to make foreign-funded Islamic schools illegal. If a school gets money from an Islamist government, it gets shut down. And the first step in stopping jihad is stopping the money that fuels it. The next piece I want to hit here, Australia needs to treat Islamist extremism the same way it treats neo-Nazism, a national security threat. You've got to classify the Islamism as a proper domestic threat. There's no more treating Islamists as just another religious group. Australia says they've got the counterterrorism pieces in place, but they're not using it. You've got to look at them as an enemy movement. You've got to criminalize public support for these groups, Hamas, Hezbollah, and this jihad. And if you march with a Hamas flag, you chant the slogans, the jihadi slogans, or you call for the destruction of Israel, you're charged with inciting terrorism. And no more slaps on the wrist. If an imam preaches jihad, he goes to prison. The time for warnings is over. And it's time to treat radical Islam as the national security threat that it is, and not just in Australia, but Europe and everywhere in the West. Now, I want to close it out with this. Australia is at a breaking point. You're watching it happen as we speak. Australians have hospitals that are filled with radicalized nurses, doctors, universities churning out Hamas sympathizers. We've been watching this for the last 16 months. It's no secret. And Islamist preachers spreading hate inside Australia, taxpayer-funded mosques. And your government refuses to act because they're too scared of being called racist. So my Aussies, I'm asking you, the people of Australia who I love, because your leaders won't do it, how much longer are you going to sit back while radicals infiltrate your hospitals, schools, and government? How many more terror plots have to be uncovered before you demand a full crackdown? And how many more protests calling for the death of Jews do you need to see before you accept that this is a war? Because here's the hard truth. If you do not stand up now, I am telling you, you will lose your country. And when you finally realize what's happened, when you look around and see the Islamist enclaves your neighborhoods used to be, and radical mobs controlling your streets, and your own government too weak to stop them, It's going to be too late. And guess what? There won't be another chance to fight back. This is it. It's a question. Is it time for Australians to start demanding mass deportations? Is it time for Australians to demand a total crackdown of radical Islam? Is it time for Australians to fight for their country? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Because make no mistake, this is a war, and Australia's in the middle of it. Aussies, are you willing to fight? Let me know down in the comments. I want to thank you guys for watching this one. This one's a big wake-up call. And let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you agree with me down in the comments.
Yeah, so we can't be see, this is a disgusting statement when you use biological warfare and murder and everything else. You yeah. So you can wipe out 90% of a population. Genocide's good as long as you're on the winning side. I mean, it's not funny. You laugh all you want, but it's a pretty fucking disgusting statement. Oh no. Yeah, genocide's a touchy subject. All right, that's all I have right now. I just wanted to get that out there. Probably not something that was too widely known. And as things come up, I'll drop them when I see them. Hey, Danny. All right. I'm going to get off here before I get pissed off. See y'all.